Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for coming this evening. You are in the Careers with English Marketing and Communications event. We have a great group of alumni here to speak with you tonight. And before we get to that, I'm going to just go over a quick intro to what this event is going to look like. My name is Michael Cruz. I work at SuccessWorks, and I helped organize this event along with Caroline Hemsley from the Department of English. So the majority of this event is going to feature our 4 alumni guests in separate breakout rooms. So we'll have the alumni bios and some other resources in the chat for you. Yep, there they are. So you can learn more about the alumni and kind of decide who you want to talk to and what you want to learn from them. We encourage you students to rotate between the rooms as you like. So stay for a little while, hear from someone, ask a question or two, and then go learn from someone else. And you can ask questions on mic, raise your hand, or you can put questions in the chat. So when we get the breakout room started, you'll see a screen like this, and you just click on the little join link next to the person that you want to speak to, and then you'll join that room. And we'll have these 4 rooms. So we'll hear from Zach Futla in room 1, Coral Grazer in room 2, Peter Hajinian in room 3, and Ali Kehoe in room 4. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn it over to Caroline to give a brief welcome from the English department.
Hi, everyone. Thanks both to the students, the panelists, and the staff for being here. I'm Caroline. I've met some of the students before and some of the SuccessWorks folks, but my role on campus is as the career and internship coordinator, specifically for the English department. So I work with students across all years, across all kinds of interests and industries to figure out what it is they want to do in the world after they graduate. And while they're at UW. So I'm relatively new to this role, but I've already experienced, I've built a lot of great relationships with people and I'm looking to help build bridges is generally my job. So students, if you are interested in meeting with me or having further conversations or thinking about how to continue learning and attending these types of events, you're welcome to contact me. I'm sure you've been hearing from me. And then we do have another upcoming event with SuccessWorks where you'll get some information about that as well. And then on the alumni side, I just want to say I'm open to all kinds of conversations if there are ways that you'd like to build relationships with students. We do have sort of an alumni mentorship program that we're hoping to build. So if there are more direct or indirect ways you'd like to be involved, additionally, I can put my contact info in the chat so you can reach out. The one other thing I had to say is that if you're here for Muse, the Madison Undergrad Society of English, I've been told to let you know to jump on like the Muse portion of this conversation afterwards. So that's one of our organizations on campus that the English undergrads are involved with. So if you're here for Muse, either check your email for a link or for further information. But thanks for joining the call today. Okay, so that's it from me. Welcome to all. I'm really excited about this event and to hear more about your work in communications and marketing.
All right, thanks, Caroline. So yeah, let's get started. You didn't come here to hear from us. Zach, would you take a couple of minutes and tell us about your career path and experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Zach Fatla, Wisconsin class of 04, Madison born and raised, really excited to get a chance to chat. So when I started my career at Madison, I was really skewing towards business, and that's what I declared for as my first major. And so I had, gotten into my junior year and had realized that almost all my electives were in the English department. I've always loved reading, loved writing, loved communication. And so in my junior year, I decided to add a second major in English. And I wasn't really sure what I would end up doing with those 2 things together. I just knew that those were the 2 things that interested me the most when I was, studying and kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. When I had gotten to my last semester, I had gotten a part-time job with a startup in Madison, a consumer goods company in the pet space. I made a bunch of pet products. And so I was working part-time with them while I was finishing up and had been kind of in parallel recruiting for real estate brokerage on the business school side of things, but had this opportunity with a startup. So took that instead of going down kind of the real estate path that I had been considering, just because It was really interesting. It was different than anything I expected. I really didn't know at the time what brand management was, which I can talk a little bit more about maybe in the breakout sessions, but, thought it was a really interesting opportunity and thought, if this doesn't work out, the real estate world won't be going anywhere. So joined that startup, worked in sales and marketing roles to kind of start. I actually ended up running the business for about 6 months for one of the owners after my boss left. My aforementioned boss that left bought another small business with a group of investors and recruited me over there. So I joined and ran marketing for an industrial adhesives company that made products both for kind of fabrication and processes, and as well as consumer products. Did that for a few years. Kind of got the bug to go back to school. Went and got my MBA to get specifically into kind of full-scale CPG brand management. And I think what really interested me, and as I mentioned a little bit before, brand management's a really interesting blend of kind of hard business and general management and consumer communications. And that's a balance that I've really, really come to enjoy. So post grad school, I worked for Miller Coors, the beer company, and did that on the brand management side for about 7 years. And then more recently, for about the past 2.5, left and joined a French cheese company called Bell, which makes Mini Baby Bell, the little cheese, and Red Wax, if you're familiar, and a bunch of other cheese brands. And so have worked kind of across the consumer goods spectrum. And as again, a Wisconsinite, I've built a career out of beer and cheese, which is okay in my book. So that's kind of the quick story, and happy to chat more with people on the details.
Great, thanks very much, Zach. Next, we will turn it over to Coral.
All right. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here and nice to meet you all. I graduated from Madison in 2011. And kind of similar to Zach, I realized as I was attending, I was taking a lot of classes in English. I really liked it. And ended up doing a double major in English literature and then communication arts. Really liked the balance of those two. They complemented each other super well. And they helped me do a lot of exploring, which I did very early on in my career. I worked at a nonprofit. I worked then at a startup. Then I went to a Fortune 500. Then I did agency. Now I'm on the corporate side. So I've really worked at a lot of different companies, within a lot of different industries, and a lot of different areas within English. So I'm currently on the PR and communication side of things, but have spent time working with brand management, working as a copywriter, working with search engine optimization, doing more kind of the digital marketing and advertising side of things when I was at the agency. So really have spent a lot of time in a lot of different areas. I think my English degree really allowed me to do a lot of play and exploration and find out what I really love in the kind of PR side of things and the influencer marketing, which is really fun that I get to do currently. I'm still based very close out of Madison. I'm just in Middleton at a company called Fiskars, which I should have brought some props with me. But we're best known for our orange-handled scissors, which probably most people had growing up. The company itself is over 370 years old. So it's really interesting to work at a company with such a legacied history and get to leverage that in a lot of communication efforts. So yeah, lots of different background that I've had, loving where I'm at currently, and I'm happy to chat through specifics with any of you as we get going.
Great, thank you, Coral. Next, we'll hear from Peter.
All right, hi everybody. Coral, you forgot to mention Fiskars has got a really great machete that they make too. So that's another story. But my story starts, I went to Madison and I graduated in 2002 in English major. And you're gonna see a little theme. I actually started out in the engineering school. And after basically almost failing out of chemistry and calculus for the second time, I decided maybe my gifts lie elsewhere. So like everybody else so far, I was taking a lot of English classes. And I decided I'll get the English degree and then I'll go back and get an MBA and get into business of some kind. Well, what I really wanted to do was write, and I couldn't get anyone to buy or read my short stories. So I decided, I had a friend whose dad was a creative director, a copywriter in Minneapolis. And kind of through just talking to him about the business, he sort of said, you need a portfolio that shows you can do ads, you can tell these little stories. At the time, it was billboards and 30-second TV spots. Now it's probably Facebook ads and online content videos, YouTube videos. So I went to Miami Ad School in Minneapolis here. And then through that, I've worked at a number of agencies. DDB in Chicago, did some work on Bud Light. I was at Carmichael Lynch for a while, worked on Harley Davidson, Porsche, and Subaru, did a lot of cars. I bounced around for a little bit, and now I'm at a small boutique agency called KC Truth. So we work with everybody from 3M to McNeilus garbage and cement trucks mixers to small startups. And what I think is great about the English degree, and again, this is a theme you're probably hearing with everybody, is you really learn how to learn. You can learn somebody's business, you can learn what their problem is, and then you can pitch a solution. And that's really what kind of the job boils down to, is coming up with communication solutions to whatever problem there is, whether it's we don't know anybody or nobody knows we exist, to we got to try and get people to remember why we're great. So that's, and I'm glad to be here to speak to you guys.
Thanks very much. And last but not least, Allie.
Sure. Hi, my name's Allie. I'm excited to be here. I, like Coral, graduated class of 2011. We actually studied abroad together in Italy, so a little reunion for us. I always wanted to be an English major because reading and talking to people about what I'm reading is one of my core passions. I still do it now via mostly book clubs. But I loved it. I had such a passion for it. I was terrified of the real world. I had no plan. I didn't want to have a plan. I didn't want to get like a big girl job or go work in corporate America. And it kind of showed. So in the first couple of years after I graduated, I really struggled a little bit. I was sort of and underemployed for about 3 years after graduation. And then keep in mind, this was also 2011 was still, I think the job market was very much still pulling itself out of the recession. So that had something to do with it too. But really I was like, do I go to grad school? What do I do? I don't have enough money to go to grad school. I eventually got my start in, it sounds like we have all sort of done a little bit of this in copywriting and agency world. So I worked for a startup accelerator writing copy for startups, which was super fun. And then I made my way to Washington, D.C., where I live now. And for about 5 or 6 years, I stayed with the same agency doing primarily real estate marketing, which isn't as fun as Coors and Fiskars and some of the other fun brands mentioned here, but certainly paid the bills. I worked my way up through a couple of leadership positions in there. So something I think a lot about in terms of how my English degree helped is definitely writing and creativity. Good writers are good thinkers. So it prepares you for a level of critical thought that is really going to serve you well. But also I think some of like the leadership skills you learn, honestly, I think about it in terms of like discussion sections, like getting comfortable talking about what you think, sharing helping that is what life is like in most jobs. I think those skills together helped me grow into, a director of marketing position. And I held that for a couple of years most recently until I decided I wanted a little bit of a career change. I was sort of done with creative world. It was fun, but it wasn't really doing it for me. And I wanted something a little bit more meatier, maybe something that challenged me in different ways. So I made my way to the tech world. So today I am a senior program manager for Amazon Web Services. So I'm basically doing internal marketing and communications for a team of cloud consultants who help public sector customers migrate their workloads to the cloud. So I've touched a bunch of different things in my career, and I'm super excited to talk to current students about their options, because I remember really struggling with it. So I'm super passionate about helping others sort of find their way or take their next step. So excited to connect with you.
Great, thanks very much, all of you. Students, I hope you're starting to think about questions you would like to ask our alumni. I'd like to get things started, and I actually had a question about what are some of the skills you gained in English that helped you in your career, but you already started answering that. So if anyone else wants to jump in and answer that, like, feel free.
I would just echo a little bit what Allie just said. I think that's a really good point of, I think the reason I've kind of moved up in my career, as I would say as quickly as I have, getting kind of internal promotions and things like that, is really because I've been more comfortable with sharing ideas. And that can be as simple as, practicing in discussion groups. A lot of people are really afraid of public speaking, and I'm not trying to minimize that, because that can be a very real fear for people, but it's also a way to like really stand out very quickly. If you can just start to share some of your own thoughts, you don't have to have a big novel like to present in front of a whole class, or when you do get a job, like in front of a big board meeting, but like just starting to get more comfortable and sharing little bits of what you think will really set you apart from others who are afraid to share their own thinking. So that's a really small skill that you can start practicing like every day in your classes, that I think English, especially with all the discussion sessions, really sets you up to be able to do from day one. So I would kind of use that as practice for little bits that you can kind of build confidence that'll help you in the long run.
Yeah, if I could add, I think that's a great point. And I think one of the things about that too is the comfort level, but then also being able to communicate, whether orally, written, whatever, efficiently, and to do it really in a pithy way, because there's just not enough hours in the day. And the people that tend to, at least in some of the jobs that we're talking about, be really successful are people that can get people over to their viewpoint quickly and without a lot of fuss. What was it, probably Mark Twain, about I write a short letter, but I didn't have enough time, whatever. Like, it's true. Like, you need to be quick and you need to be efficient in how you communicate with people. And I think, those that have a good footing in English have a leg up in that. And, I think communication is very different these days. Even when I started, like, email is certainly a big component of it, but text, in all honesty, is something that I use with a lot of coworkers, Slack, a lot of these other forms. Like, you need to be able to efficiently, and obviously in front of people orally, like, be able to get your points across and get people to buy what you're selling really quickly. And I think that's a really foundational thing that you get with an English degree.
Great, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. What are the most rewarding or satisfying parts of your work?
I could go first. I started, like I said, I started out in engineering, and I wanted to, the reason was not because I was a math whiz, obviously, but I wanted to make things. That was what was interesting to me, was creation, was creating things. And I always just thought of it as maybe I'll make bridges and buildings. But then I realized, with advertising, I'm in a copywriting role, which you've heard kind of mentioned here. I'm essentially making what I call them mouse traps. It's really short, quick things that are closer to jokes than they are to book reports, but they're meant to have that kind of snap. So I will spend half a day and write dozens of headlines and come up with dozens of ideas for something. And at the end of the day, I've put things on paper that didn't exist there before, whether it's a video script or an idea for an event, or, any of those kinds of things. And even though it's not a novel, which is what I probably wanted if you asked me 20 years ago, it's still something that's new and is interesting, and people are interacting with it. And that's probably the most rewarding part of my job, besides the free LaCroix. But
for me, I think what I've always enjoyed most and what's been most rewarding about all of my roles is the extent to which I'm asked to distill, like articulate and distill complicated subject matter. It's a puzzle. It can be hard depending. Right now it's harder than it's ever been because I'm working with the cloud. I had to find out what the cloud was and start writing about it. So for me, there's an element of ongoing learning and then also creating like learning pathways for others. Articulating something that's really difficult to articulate is really, really rewarding when you can like summarize something. It sounds so lame, but it's true. Like when you can summarize something like quickly and cleanly and help, you know, people absorb it and move on with their day. It's a little puzzle that sort of makes me feel accomplished.
Yeah, I think for me, I've worked obviously all in hard goods throughout my career. You know, adhesives, cap products, beer, cheese. You know, there's something really, I like that tangible nature of being able to see something and see a product that someone interacts with. And I think, you know, brand management, where I've kind of, you know, found my career, is really kind of a business within a business, right? So it's how do you run this certain brand and all of the things that come attached to it. And that means a lot of different things. It touches a lot of different aspects. So it really is kind of a small business underneath the umbrella of another business. And, you know, I think because of that, and because there's so many different responsibilities and stakeholders, you interact with a lot of different people, and you really have to be able to flex and communicate stylistically with a lot of different folks and kind of understand their starting spot and what their incentives are and try to figure out what you're trying to accomplish. And I just, that problem and set of problem changes every day, but I think they're really interesting, and it's really rewarding at the end of the day for me to be able to see it, you know, on shelf in someone's hands, to actually see something physical with someone is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I would just add, you don't get to do this with every brand. So I feel very lucky that I currently am able to do this, but I love the creativity that I get to see every day when I'm working with editors and influencers who are creating content for us or writing stories that are talking about our product or our larger brand, some of our bigger topics that are really important at the, you know, currently for us, which is you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or sustainability, or taking big stances on some of these things. It's amazing to see a story like that come to life that I was able to help implement. And then, you know, with our company, yeah, we sell scissors, but I get to work with some of these amazing creative artists and craftsmen and professionals who use our scissors to create unbelievable things and true pieces of art that I just find so rewarding to be able to help kind of bring light to that and share their skills and share their craft, you know, to the world, whether it's on Instagram or through a media campaign that we're doing, or again, a journalist profile story is really, really cool to be able to do. And hopefully bring a little bit more of that kind of positivity and happiness into the world. Like I said, you don't get that on every brand, but thankfully at this point, that's something I'm able to do that I really love.